Hello, welcome to NAIFA Live. I'm your host, Zach Hewells. We have a great speaker lined up for you this morning from our host location in Twin Cities, Minnesota. Some of you are joining us virtually, while others are joining us from one of the 23 watch locations across Iowa, Kentucky, Maine, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Texas. If this is your first NAIFA Live, welcome. If you're a regular, welcome back. And if you're not a NAIFA member, then an especially warm welcome to you. We'd like you to know that you are participating in a community of more than 25,000 people who care about getting to know you and your business. We hope that you see firsthand today that our value is our people. If you want more information about NAIFA, talk to your watch party location host or email us at recruitment@naifa.org. Again, that's recruitment@naifa.org. And speaking of watch parties, let's see who all is out there today. Let's get a good look. Hey, everybody. Welcome to your NAIFA meeting. All right. Before we begin the program, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. Today, 1 CE credit has been approved for participants in Arkansas, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, Nebraska, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Washington, D.C. That is the most by far. All right. For those of you joining us virtually from those states with the intention to earn CE credits, you must remain present for the duration of the program. Throughout the program, polling questions will appear on your screen. It'll pop up right in the window. You'll have 2 minutes to answer them in order to attain the CE credit. In fact, the first polling question for individual viewers is, how many years have you been in the business? How many years have you been in the business? Please use the polling function on your screen to respond. You have 2 minutes. Now, just so you know, NAIFA Live will be held every month, so please mark your calendar for the next meeting on July 18th, hosted by NAIFA Iowa. This meeting will feature Curtis Cloak presenting Cracking the Retirement Income Code. Now it is my pleasure to turn the program over to NAIFA Minnesota President Drew DeWitt, who will introduce our speaker. Drew?
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you great.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach. Well, welcome everybody across the country to Minnesota. I'm your state president, Drew DeWitt. I often find it amazing how many different ways the term insurance is interpreted, let alone how many different ways we as advisors design insurance solutions for our clients. In the spirit of full disclosure, this session may go against the grain for some of us, but that's okay. I think it's healthy to be challenged professionally and to learn what other advisors are telling their clients, and more importantly, what our clients are hearing. I challenge you to listen to this session with an open mind. Then I hope after the Q&A section at the end, this will foster a healthy discussion at each viewing party location. For those attending virtually, we are giving you the ability to consume this content, but a huge value to your NAIFA membership is the ability to collaborate with other advisors. That can only happen when you're elbow to elbow with these advisors at viewing parties. So I encourage you to find a viewing party next month, July 18th, when Curtis Cloak presents. And the purpose of NAIFA Live, and why we put this together, is to spotlight experts in our field to the whole country. We've sure got one for you today. I've personally known Bob Cohen for almost 20 years, and I can attest to it. He is proud to be an insurance agent. He has delivered claim checks, so he's seen the magic of our profession. He has also spent his career reviewing and trying to fix policies that have had problems. This is why he's an expert on this topic. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Cohen.
Who knew? Does this sound okay? Okay. I've never been accused of not projecting, so you should be in good shape. Thank you. So every time I present on any topic, I'm reminded of my favorite college professor who on the first day of class, everyone sitting in their seats in anticipation, announced to us, just like you, I'm sure just like you, there's nothing I can't stand more than having to sit through and listen to a long, boring presentation. But he said, I don't mind giving them. And he was right. They were terribly boring. So we're here to talk about the gotchas and trapdoors of life insurance. Anybody here have a client who's had questions or been confused about their policy? Just 1, 2, 3, 4. If we had more time, we'd probably get to the whole group. I'm going to do my best today to tell you why. These are complicated assets, or can be. I look at this stuff all day, every day. I have to go back to the insurance carrier with questions. So the advisors don't have much of it. The advisors working with your clients don't have much of a chance of understanding this stuff. Your clients have almost no chance of understanding this stuff. So what we're going to do is, let's see, are we doing okay here? How do we advance? Oh, I got the wrong one. Okay, so we're going to prevent this from happening to your client. And I'm going to start with what I consider to be 30 seconds of good humor. I hope you brought your senses of humor today. We're going to make some fun, mostly at my expense, maybe a little at yours, but mostly mine.
Virgil complains he is severely tortured. For several days, he is locked in a sweatbox with an insurance salesman.
We agents take a lot of flack. Some deservedly so, mostly not though. But it's a hard job. I can still recall the reaction of the first person I was ever referred to.
No, God, please, no, 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 no.
So that didn't pan out for me so well in the beginning. I would build my business around seminar selling. And that tended to clear a room pretty quickly. Couldn't get away from it fast enough. And because our marketing department thinks they're absolutely hilarious, I'll share this one with you as well. So to those of us in the room, that's a puzzle. To the advisors we work with, the lawyers, the CPAs, the wealth managers, the property casualty, and particularly our clients, that's a life insurance policy. These things are puzzles. They're very hard to understand for our clients, and so they need us and they rely on us not just to sell this stuff, but to understand what it is we're recommending they put in place. Because if we don't understand, your client is faced with the possibility of delivering no benefits to their beneficiaries, their families, their businesses, their charitable interests, because these policies are tricky at minimum. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on myself. I don't want to spend a great deal of time on that because that's not what you're here to listen to. But my one disclosure is I sell life insurance. I'm one of you. I'm one of you. You may not think so when I get into some of the topics and some of my criticisms of our industry, constructive criticisms, hopefully. But as Drew said, I am a life insurance agent. I'm proud of it, and I hope to be one in my entire career. What I am is simply life, disability, long-term care, and annuity specialist. What I'm not is everything else. I'm not a wealth manager. I'm not a fund picker. I'm not a financial planner. I don't know what 529 your kids should be in. I try to be an inch wide and a mile deep in the insurance planning only. So a little bit of what I believe. You did say this might go against the grain, right? Here we go. I think permanent life insurance in many cases is widely oversold to people who don't need it. I think term insurance is undersold to people who do need it. I'll give you an example. Nothing is as upsetting to me as when I'm introduced to, referred to, or meet with a young couple, young little kids, mortgage, car, education, and what do they have for coverage? A $200,000 whole life policy. And I'm guessing, I can hear the conversation in that meeting. What's your budget for life insurance planning? 100 a month, 200 a month, 300 a month. And that's what we present inside of a whole life policy. Here's your $300 a month commitment. or budget, and here's how much whole life policy it'll buy. My contention, that family needs $2 million at term insurance. $200,000 is not going to get that family from start to finish in their circumstances. And so I believe that whole life permanent insurance has a place. I think it's a miracle product, but I do think it's widely oversold, all based on circumstances. I think some life insurance policies have more risk in them than the assets they're designed to protect. And when we get into some examples, I'll show you why I believe that. I think life insurance is the spoke of the financial wheel, not the hub. We need to play ball with the fund managers, with the lawyers, with the CPAs. Life insurance cannot stand on its own. It has to be part of a broad plan. I also believe that life insurance is your client's single largest unmanaged asset. If you ask them about their business, they'll know all about it. If you ask them about their investments, they'll know all about it. If you ask them about their life insurance policy, they may not even know where it is. And I hear this all the time. I ask to review someone's life insurance policy, and what I hear is, well, I'd be happy to let you do that. I just don't know if it's in a sock drawer, a safety deposit box. I'm not sure where we keep it. And as soon as I find it, I'll have you take a look at it. That's not proper management. And I think that many clients have either not been told or forgotten that their life insurance policy, they think their life insurance policy is a stagnant asset, when in fact, many policies are very fluid. They can change quickly, they can change dramatically, they can leave the family, the business, the charity without the anticipated benefits. And so this needs to be looked at and managed like every other asset in your portfolio, just like your business, just like your investments, just like your real estate. I also believe, however, and I'll defend this to anybody, that there is no product. There is nothing like life insurance. There's nothing that can deliver a tax-free benefit at the moment it's needed. No other vehicle matures upon event like life insurance. So as far as I'm concerned, it is a miracle product. I always find it interesting how what people find important to them and how they spend their time in terms of the review of their assets. Let's just take a look at some of the items that are reviewed more frequently and with more depth than life insurance. Car insurance. And if you do a thoughtful review, you might save a few $100, which is always welcome. Your mortgage, and if you're managing that properly, you might refinance and save several thousand, worthwhile. I've stopped trying to figure out my cell phone contract. I have no idea if I'm overpaying. I'm just going to assume that I am. I have no idea. Credit card reward points. Again, we track those very carefully. And one that was suggested to me, and I think is better in one of these presentations, and is better than anything I've got up there, Sky Miles. We all know exactly how many more miles we need to get a free airfare somewhere, right? Yet we're not reviewing the life insurance policy, which has values in the hundreds of thousands, the millions, the tens of millions. Why are we spending time on these nickel and dime matters when we've got a life insurance policy that's being unattended to, is supposed to take care of our families should we not make it home tonight? So this is my opinion, but it's not only my opinion. Look at what's being published. And I imagine that some of you have seen these articles or headlines. So they say, well, this is my opinion. This is not only my opinion. That's what's being written about our industry and our products. We have some work to do. We have some work to do. So who should care about this? If you're doing income replacement planning for your clients, ILIT planning for your clients, buy-sell planning, you see where I'm going with this? It's really everyone and anyone with an interest in an insurance policy needs to care about this. Charitable gift planning, key person planning, deferred comp, and of course, insured beneficiaries and agents. Any type of life insurance policy that's being issued for any purpose needs to be cared about. So I spend a lot of time with advisors, lawyers, as I'm sure many of you do too. Lawyers, CPAs, wealth managers, property casualty agents. I spend a lot of time with advisors. And I ask them flat out, tell me what you think of when you think of life insurance or life insurance agents. I want to know how you perceive us. So what I'm going to share with you next is, again, will be uncomfortable. It is not my work. It is what I'm being told by third parties, the people who trust us and refer their clients to us. Here's what they tell me. Your products are largely misunderstood. Worse, your products are from time to time misleading. And I don't see this a lot, but I've seen it enough to be concerned. They tell me finally, I think from time to time your products are misrepresented. That's a big bar for us to get over. Again, these are the folks who are entrusting their clients to us to do insurance planning. That one I threw in. So the gotchas and trapdoors of life insurance. What's the overriding message? What you see isn't always what you get. So let's go over how and where the gotchas can get you. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, at least please take away this. Premium does not equal cost. Premium does not equal cost. And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by this. This is a very oversimplified example, a very oversimplified example. But it's also an example that most every advisor I've shared it with has said, okay, now I get life insurance. Or at least I understand life insurance more than I did before we visited. So I'm going to keep using it. So I want to sell Brian here a $1 million life insurance policy. And the cost to sustain that policy is $1,000. Now you can see I've got actual and italicized and not scheduled in parentheses. The actual premium is $1,000, but the scheduled premium is whatever I choose it to be. See, the good news and the bad news about life insurance is the exact same thing. The good news is I can design my premium. The bad news is I can design my premium. Because if I'm laying two policies side by side, one costs more, one costs less, which are you, absent the information that we're going through today, which will you choose? Which will your clients choose? For sure the policy that's less. What they don't know is that they're actually the same policy. They've simply been, I'll use the term jerry-rigged, a little differently. And so when we've got a policy that the actual cost is $1,000, but we can pay what we want, this is where we get in trouble. A lot of life insurance policies are in trouble before they're even issued. Before they're even issued. So let's walk through this oversimplified example. So I want to sell Brian a $1 million policy for $1,000, and he tells me to pound sand, something I hear several times every day, still after 25 years. Pound sand, Bob, I'm not interested. And I said, well, wait a minute. Before you walk, you need the coverage. And this is your lucky day because you met me, and I've got flexible products. You don't have to pay the $1,000. You can, kind of use car salesman-ish. We can get you into this for far less than that. So Brian's, okay, you run your mouth, Bob. Show me what you got. Well, you could pay $925 for this policy. Same policy, you just pay $925. And that's generally where the conversation ends, and it's my contention that that's where the conversation ought to begin. Because if Brian's going to consider paying $925 for a $1 million policy that actually costs $1,000, I'm $25 short. Am I not? I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm $75 short. Where does that $75 come from? Well, there is no cash value. This is a new policy. If there is cash value in the future, initially that $75 has to come from the investment earnings on the $925. The insurance company has to manage your money in such a way, your $925 in such a way that they can generate $75 on it. So very simple math. What have I done for, or maybe I should say to, what have I done to Brian? I've set him up right out of the gates with a policy that requires 8% return to stay in force. Who's a wealth manager in the room? I already told you I'm not. So Brian, you're getting all my attention. We haven't scripted that. We do know each other, but we haven't scripted this. Are you promising or suggesting to your clients 8% year-over-year returns every year for the rest of their life? And that's borderline, if not actual malpractice. So we've got a policy set up to produce that needs 8% annually to keep this policy in force. And we've just heard from an expert that he's not counseling his clients that way. But it gets better. Brian doesn't want to pay $925 either. I say, don't walk just yet. again, you're lucky, you met me, my products are flexible, it'll be okay, don't worry. We can get you this policy for $910. Anybody see the death spiral that's about to occur here? And so if Brian starts to, I pique his interest at $910, what I haven't disclosed to him, however, is that we got to come up with $90 somewhere. Same principle. The insurance company needs to manage this $910 in such a way that they produce the extra $90 to meet the total cost of $1,000. Now what have I done to him? 10% rate of return. I'll throw one more up there. You see where I'm going with this thing. He still doesn't bite, and so I'm dropping it. And there are policies right now available for sale that legally, and I would argue may possibly not ethically, but legally can be sold on a 12% annualized compounded rate of return every year for the rest of my life. These are what I call non-starters. These are what I call non-starters. This is why when I'm fortunate enough to get a referral, but unfortunate enough that the referrer gives the client my name and 2 others, which, don't you hate that? I mean, if you trust me, just let me do my work. But when I get referred in and they tell me they've given 2 other names to the client, I withdraw mine. Just do me a favor, make this easier on everybody, withdraw my name, because this is where that conversation is going to go. Me and the 2 other agents, we're going to have a turf battle. We're going to drive this price down so that we can win the business to the detriment of the insured, his or her beneficiaries, business, and or charity. So these are, in my estimation, I said earlier that policies are in trouble before they're even issued or delivered. This is why. This is why. If you're hanging your hat on the stock market, and I hope we're all in the market in some capacity, there's nothing wrong with being in the market, but if you're hanging your life insurance hopes on the market, then your plan is hope. Your plan is hope. So I was always taught when I first got in the business that life insurance is a risk transfer vehicle. I've got a risk. My family won't have enough money if I die. That's my risk. The charities I care about won't be funded if I die. That's a risk. So I buy life insurance to offset that risk. But in the example I've just shared with you, who's transferring the risk to who? I'm buying this policy as a risk transfer vehicle. The insurance carrier is placing the risk right back on me. Because I need X% rate of return, or I'm not going to have a policy. And you're going to learn about it at the worst possible time, is my guess. I'll show you an example of why I believe that. Anybody? I'll date myself, but I'll let you guys go first. Anyone know who that is? Yeah, I have no door prizes, but you're right. Spanky McFarland. So we've got good money chasing bad. And it's just so unfortunate. I don't know if I should be pleased or displeased. I mean, I have a job, I have a career because these policies get turned upside down. And this is what I spend a great deal of my time on, but it is very sad. And so my dad always taught me where there's a gimme, there's a gotcha. And so if we're looking at premiums being lower, now this isn't true in every case, but it's true enough of the time to warrant concern and review these policies. When the premium goes down, the gotcha of the risk goes up. Again, this isn't necessarily always the case, but it's true enough of the time to be concerned for your client. If they boast to you of how much money they saved on their life insurance, we need to fast forward and take a look at that illustration and see if this thing's going to be in force when they need it. And by the way, the only time a life insurance policy is any good is at death. I mean, some of the policies I see, I wonder if others share that feeling. So remember, if you remember nothing else, remember this: premium does not equal cost. So let's talk about the internal expenses. This is a different gotcha. This is a different gotcha altogether. The internal expenses gotcha. In this current, and I'm going to take off my watch and look at it, not because I'm bored, but because I want to make sure I honor our time today. Drew, you'll help me with that? In the current and past and upcoming abysmally low interest rate environment is not a good time or an easy way for life insurance companies to make money. They invest largely in fixed vehicle instruments. There's very little interest spread, and therefore insurance companies aren't making the yield that they're accustomed to, want to, like to, need to. However, don't feel sorry for them just yet, because they have a plan B. And that is they can come in through the back door and contractually extract additional expenses from your policy to make up any shortfall between what they can make in their investments and what they need to feel good about themselves, or their shareholders feel good about them. So here's a letter, and thank goodness for this letter, but I'm a bit perplexed. This is Voya, who, by the way, is no longer in the individual life insurance business. That's a whole nother conversation. But I take my hat off to them for making their clients aware that this is coming, that they are, in fact, going through that back door and extracting additional expenses to meet their financial goals and objectives. But what kind of a letter is this? The internal costs of your policy will increase between 9 and 42%. I will assure you that 9% is horrendous. On the low end of this scale, you're in trouble. On the high end, you're in trouble right away. There's nothing good can come of this. All this can do is accelerate a lapse that you can't do much about. And so, this is one of a dozen letters I have from carriers who are doing the right thing by making their clients aware, their insureds aware that this is happening or going to happen. But a little more specificity between 9 and 42% might have been helpful. And what does the client do when they get this letter? You know, they go to their agent if they have one. That too is a whole nother conversation. Agents who come and go. I'll address that in just a moment. So there's really only two ways life insurance companies make money. There's some ancillary ways, I'm sure, but two basic ways life insurance companies make money. Interest rate spread. They take in your premium, they invest it, they earn a rate of return, they keep some, they credit some to your policy. That's interest rate spread. The other is internal expenses. So I just mentioned to you a moment ago, there is no interest rate spread. Not in this environment. There is no, many if not most policies are currently crediting their contractual minimum. Would you agree with that? Most policies are currently crediting their contractual minimum. So there is no interest rate spread. So where are they going to go? Where? The expenses. So this is what I kind of call a carbon monoxide gotcha. You don't see it, smell it, feel it, taste it. It's just happening. It's just happening. And then you get the letter that your policy is about to expire or lapse, and you can certainly save it. Just get out your checkbook. And we'll talk about that in a moment as well. Just a word about vanishing premiums. There's no such thing. Just remember that. There's no such thing. There is something called a paid-up policy, which is subtly different, but it is different. That's a contractual arrangement between the policy owner and the insurance company that paying X premium for Y years, you will be done. That's a paid-up policy. There is no such thing as a vanishing premium. A vanishing premium conversation goes something along the lines of, make this premium for 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it is, and you'll never have to pay another premium again. What they exclude in most of these conversations are the what ifs, or the subject tos. What the conversation should have been is pay this premium for 7, 8, 10 years, whatever the schedule is. And if the company is profitable enough, and if the company declares the dividend we're anticipating, and if the expenses remained level or fewer, then we can get you out from under this premium. The premium never goes away. It's simply covered by a different source of revenue, the dividend. And so I get questions all the time from folks who get referred in, say, I was told to make 8 premiums and I'd be done. This is my 15th invoice. What went wrong? Or I was told that the premium would go away after 8 premiums, and it did. But guess what? Thank you. It came. We didn't work this out earlier, did we? It came back because it's all a function of profitability, expenses, dividends, interest rates. And so there is no such thing. Just know that much as a vanishing premium. There are, however, vanishing agents. The folks who make these empty promises and who are no longer around to ask, what the heck did you get me into? So now I shared with you earlier the oversimplified model. Now I'm going to share with you real life. So here's a user-friendly document. This is an actual life insurance illustration. This is the document. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but this is what you asked me to do, right? This is the document that your insureds are signing off on. This is the document that your insured's trustees are signing off on. And I would wager almost anything they couldn't explain the first thing of this to you, to any of us. And I'm talking about even the sophisticated, intelligent, successful, wealthy. It's really about the only asset those folks will readily admit, unashamedly, that they don't understand. They understand their business and their investments and their real estate. You know, they understand all, but they will admit in most cases, I don't know what this thing is. I don't remember why I bought it. I don't remember why I keep it. Help me understand. So let's walk through this. So do I have a, oh shoot. I don't know if I have a laser on here or not. This is page 1 of the illustration. Okay, so let's just go through this. So you can see in the upper, do I have a laser? That would be helpful. I don't think so. Oh, I do. Okay, perfect. So you can see in the upper left-hand corner here, we've got a 45-year-old paint. Should I just skip it? Okay. I'll speak about where we are as well. In the upper left-hand corner, we've got a 45-year-old paying $12,700. Can I just round that to 13 for simplicity's sake? And which buys a $2 million life insurance policy. This is what most folks who get referred in to me to review their policy tell me about their policy. This is what the agent said. I pay $13,000 a year. I got a $2 million policy. And again, that's where the conversation often ends much too soon. Much too soon. Why? We talked about these built-in rates of returns and assumptions and optimistic projections. Well, how about this one? This is a real case, by the way. This is an actual illustration from a client referred into our office. How about this for a projection? 10% for 10 years in a row. No problem. 10%, 10 years in a row, followed by 7% every year thereafter. Because life insurance companies have figured out what no one else has. Money grows in a straight line. It's absurd. It's absurd. So let's just take a look at, again, not what this agent did for, but to his client. On the far left hand, for those not in the room, here's our insured getting older every year. Here's his $13,000 of premium. Here's his $2 million of life insurance. So far, so good. After 20 years, he has put in $250,000 of premium. That's after tax premium, by the way. He had to earn $750 to afford it, or thereabouts. I'm not a tax expert. And here we are at age 64. Now I'm going to click and just pick up the illustration at age 65. The only thing that's going to change is that he's getting older. Am I in your way, Brian? And so here we have on the far left-hand side, he's now 65. The first page was 45 through 64. Now he's 65. He's paying us 13 grand, and it's 13 grand, and it's 13 grand. We get down to age 84. Oops. End. End, hatch mark, zeros. Those are the things you don't want to see on your life insurance illustrations. Ever. Ever. So what we have here, by the way, this policy lapsed at age 84. Is that about the time you need it? Is that about the time you need it? It's about life expectancy. So here we have now our client who has paid $500,000 of after-tax premium into a $2 million policy that's gone. By the way, there's your cash value. It's gone too. It's gone too. So it's the trifecta. $500,000 gone, cash value gone, life insurance gone. Thanks for playing our game. This is a heartbreaking conversation. This is a heartbreaking conversation. We looked at this in the office and kind of reverse engineered it. I wanted to know, and we can all do this. This software is all available at the carriers. What would it take to get this out of a lapse mode? And as I said earlier, get your wallet out. Be seated and get your wallet out. What would it take to get this $2 million life insurance extended to age 100? There's no real magic in 100. It's kind of the gold standard in our business, although now it's it could be, you could argue 105 or 110, but 100 is kind of the gold standard. Anyone want to take a guess what the new premium is at age 80, from age 84 to 100 to get the death benefit to go to 100? How much? 43. Very good. Very close. 43 grand a year to get this to go to 100, up from 13, which, by the way, we're still bound by these absurd, I'll just call them absurd, rates of return. So the 43 grand has to perform at this level, and the moment it doesn't, we get to start it all over again. We get to do it again. Now he's 90. And it's an ugly, ugly figure, I can assure you. So let me, and so I said earlier, if you remember nothing else, remember price doesn't equal premium. Remember this too. I'll add this to the list. Life insurance illustrations, in my estimation, are nothing more than a sales tool to help the agent sell the policy. They are not designed to help the client understand what they bought. It's a useful tool if we will walk our clients through it, explain the gotchas, explain the trapdoors, explain the opportunities, and then revisit with our client annually. That's a whole other bugaboo I have, agents who hit and run. But this is designed for us to help sell product, not for the clients to understand it. I don't know the solution, but this to me is clearly the problem, one of them. So can this policy be saved? Of course it can. That's the home office telling us that your premium just went from 13,000 to 43,000. So you can almost always rescue a policy, but at the risk of almost impoverishing your client, and it's never pleasant. So a few gotcha terms. Just some things to be aware of and keep, when you hear or see, just the antenna goes up and just maybe question a little more deeply. Flexible, adjustable premiums. So this was a policy type that had been designed years ago to give the client flexibility. Sounds great, client flexibility. If exercised responsibly. Skipping premiums feels really, really good. So good that you're going to do it again next year and the year after that. And so flexibility becomes your enemy. I'm not opposed to the product, but I think, again, it's incumbent upon us as the agent to explain to our clients that if you choose not to pay the premium, the carrier may choose not to pay the death benefit. So flexible, adjustable premiums, be very leery of. They're products that, they're good products, they're products that can and do work, but once and if abused, you're in trouble. Now you're looking at an example that we just looked at a minute ago where that 13,000 went to 43. The insurance company will always get their pound of flesh, I assure you. Variable life is not, in my opinion, a gotcha product in and of itself, but it can be if you aren't careful. Variable life insurance is really the marriage of securities with life insurance. And in my estimation, I may upset some of you here, but I'm going to go for it anyhow. And in my estimation is the combination of a high-fee product to a high-fee product. Did someone agree with me? Okay, thank you. Well, that's what I've observed. And so you've got a higher bar to cross to get these policies to work out. And then in addition to some of the, I'll call optimistic projections, you've got the possibility of a loser. You're adding risk to your risk. I like that almost as much as wedding high fee to high fees. I steal your stuff, so feel free to participate. Brian?
You're adding risk to your risk management.
Oh, so Brian's, with whom I agree, you're adding risk to a risk management tool. I think life insurance is purchased for assured protection, not kind of maybe sort of if, that, and the other thing. And that's what I believe variable life is. I sold these policies when I got started in the business because I was told to. I wish I hadn't. I don't have too many out there, thankfully. I gave up my securities license years and years ago. It's just not a product for me. Here's why. Let me show you. Let me dig a little deeper. How am I doing? Okay, great. So let's dig a little deeper. So when you talk about variable life, it is to me like pushing a boulder uphill. For one particular reason, administrative expenses, no big deal. I mean, every insurance company has administrative expenses. That's how you stay in business. Cost of insurance expenses, I'm okay with that. You have to extract the cost of insurance. How do you pay the claim otherwise? I'm not doing this for my health. I got 3 kids in college, so I got no problem with any of us making a living if we're doing this properly and ethically. So commissions don't bother me. That bothers me. Fees in these things can be astronomical. I'm going to show you an example. I'll be curious as to whether or not you agree with me. Here's an illustration that I reviewed not that long ago, quite honestly. And as you can see, we've got, in the yellow on the top, we've got an 8% rate of return built into this policy, better than 10, but not terrific. I think that's still high. Look at the net. Anybody not see what the net rate of return on this policy is? Projected at 8, gross, net 6. 25% of the return in this policy is swallowed up by fees. Think about that for a moment. Could any wealth manager get away with that? I mean, it's absurd. Again, absurd. And as you can see, this $8,000 premium on the left-hand column is going away at their age 89, 91. So not unlike the example we looked at earlier. This policy is going away. Why? Here's as I said earlier, you don't smell, taste, hear, feel the expenses, but they're happening. So recall that we've got an $8,000 premium. Here's the annual internal expenses. So in the 24th year, I pay $8,000 a premium, and I've got $16,000 of expenses. The cost of my insurance as I get older. Year 2, I pay $8,000. I've got $20,000 of internal expenses. Can you see where this is going? Can you see where that's going? That too is a death spiral. And most, boy, I'm almost tempted to say all, but I'll settle for most insureds have no idea. Their agents, in many cases, have no idea. So let's take this to its conclusion. What do we need to pay? Because we've underfunded at $8,000, and because we've overprojected at 8%, and we've overfeed, if that's a word, at 25% of the return, how do we get this policy to work? No problem. Just ante up. Now our premium just went from $8,000 to almost $38,000 to get this policy to go to 100, age 100. Actually, it looks like it goes to 102, 103 there. And as we said earlier, as we chatted about earlier, that $37,000 still has a bar that it has to cross, that 8% rate of return. We're stuck with that. If we want to assume, however, let's get a little more reasonable in our assumptions. 8% we agree is too high, so let's assume this policy will perform at 6%. I can get comfortable around that. Still don't like the product, but I can get comfortable with a 6% rate of return. But you have to know that the rate of return and the premium due is like a pulley system. If one goes up, the other goes down. If one goes down, the other goes up. So if I reduce the rate of return projected inside of this policy, I'm going to have to come up with more dough. And so if we projected 6%, which is more reasonable, our premium now just went to $42,000. So from 8 to 37 to 42,000. This is crazy. This is crazy. So we have to be very aware of what we're selling. We have to understand how it works. We have to help the client know the risk they're getting themselves into. And by the way, there are risk-free policies, provided the insurance carrier is still standing, which I have a high degree of confidence in our industry that the carriers that have done good work for years and decades will continue to do so. Okay, thank you. I insist as best I can, I certainly have no control over this, but I insist as best I can that I review everybody's second to die policies. I want to review everybody's policy of any type, of any type policy at all. But why do you think second to die I'm so concerned about? Longevity. Any rate of return that's built into this policy, whether it's reasonable or absurd, has to hold up over 2 lifetimes. And sometimes that second lifetime is years and decades after the first passing. So we have to be very careful that these policies stay in force over 2 lifetimes. What happens at the first death of a second to die policy? Nothing. Exactly, nothing. What's that? Someone gets buried. No proceeds are released. No, the premiums continue to get paid and no death benefit proceeds are released. So these policies are particularly, in my opinion, at risk because they have to last a long, long time. Here's a little known idea that I'll run up the flagpole with you. Now, admittedly, this is not an idea that works as often as I'd like, but if it works even once, I'm delighted. And that is to re-underwrite a second to die policy with the first insured having passed. Let me state that differently. When the first insured passes, reevaluate and re-underwrite that policy. Why do you think? It's not very obvious. Often the first to pass, not always, but often the first to pass is the less healthy. It's usually the man. The less healthy insured was very likely assessed additional costs of insurance to get the policy issued because she was in poor or failing health. In fact, that's one of the benefits of second to die. You can get it with with one of the couple who's not healthy. So if the first insured had fees associated with that policy because of his compromised health when the policy was issued, at his death, those added costs, those added expenses, those added fees stay with the policy. They don't go away just because the insured did. They stay with the policy. So if the remaining insured is insurable, that can get defined lots of ways. We think everybody's insurable. If the surviving spouse is insurable, it's always worth taking a look to see if we can re-underwrite him or her for a new policy and get those added costs off the policy. And if it works even a couple of times, it's worth tens of thousands, and larger policies, hundreds of thousands of dollars to your client. And you will get referred to others. How am I, about 10? I'm going to spend 1 minute on bank finance life insurance. For the very wealthy who have a life insurance need, whether it's for personal estate tax planning, whether it's for charitable planning, oftentimes it's the same, or they use it for both purposes. There are actually banks who will loan the premium. Bank financed life insurance. It's a loan like any other. You have a mortgage, you have a car loan, you have a business loan, you have a life insurance loan. Now, these are not for the faint of heart, let me be clear. And it is not, in fact, let me just scroll through this. It's a solution for clients who are non-liquid or just prefer to stay invested. You know, Brian's a wealth manager. You're doing so well for your client. Why would I extract money from you that you're growing to buy life insurance? We kid around our office. Nobody's ever objected to life insurance. They object to the premium for life insurance. So why would I extract money that you're managing favorably for me to go buy life insurance? It's a reasonable argument, I think. And so there's bank finance life insurance that's available. So it's available for non-liquid or those who prefer to stay invested, to acquire a large portfolio of insurance either for personal and or charitable purposes. But here's the gotcha. So what does this have to do with gotchas? Here's the gotcha. This is not free life insurance. Not only is it not free, it's not risk-free either. About once a month, maybe twice a month, somebody calls our office, got referred in by their friend, brother-in-law, golfing partner, whomever. Yeah, can you do one of those free life insurance things for me? That's not a good way to start a conversation. There is no free life insurance out there. If you're not in this marketplace, or if you are, just know there's no free life insurance out there. So we gotta calm these guys down. They get a little giddy. Free life insurance. I'll take 20 million of it. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. I'm not going to spend a great deal more time on that. And I'm going to wrap up in just a moment here. And this is, I don't know if this is more sad or more funny or more, it's true, I think. This is my favorite one. Do I have a few minutes for a video? Okay. So a one question pop quiz. What's the similarity between Cracker Jacks and a life insurance policy? What's that? Allison thinks there's always a surprise inside.
Phil?
Anybody know what this is?
Phil? Honest? Phil, I thought that was you. How you doing? Thanks for watching. Hey. Now, don't you tell me you don't remember me, because I'm sure as heck I remember you. Not a chance. Ned! Ryerson! Heel nose Ned, the hair come on, buddy Chase Western High. Ned Ryerson, I did the whistling belly button trick at the high school talent show. Bing! Ned Ryerson got the shingles real bad senior year, almost didn't graduate. Bing! Yeah. Ned Ryerson, I think your sister Mary Pat a couple times to you told me not to anymore. Well?
Ned Ryerson?
Bing!
Bing! So did you turn pro with that belly button thing, Ned, or
No, Phil, I sell insurance.
what shop?
Do you have life insurance? Because if you do, you can always use a little more. Am I right or am I right or am I right?
I would love to stand here and talk to you, but I'm not going
If we can't have some fun with this, what's the point? I'm going to wrap. I probably have a minute and a half. So I'll wrap up with one more, what I think is fun. That's perfect. And then I do want to get serious again as we close and make you aware of some gotchas that I haven't quite figured out, but I'm aware of and always keep my antenna up. Things to be watching for or listening for in regards to others working with your clients. How we mask life insurance. I mean, I think we should be proud of what it is and what we do, and I think there's just a little bit of masquerading going on with some of these strategies, which in the end are life insurance plays. I hear about private pension. It's life insurance. A rich man or woman's Roth. It's life insurance. The 401k look-alike. Not only is that life insurance, that's variable life insurance. Be your own bank. That might be my favorite. Be your own bank. Sounds appealing. How do I do that? Divest of everything and buy life insurance. I heard about this one only recently, the 0% tax bracket. Anybody heard that one? What's that? Is that the same thing as 0%? Now, if someone can explain to me why these are great ideas, I will come back to this forum and apologize to each of you and them. I just don't, if we're going to be proud of what we do and what we sell and our work, then let's tell the world what it is, what it really is. It's not a 0% tax bracket. It's not being your own bank. It's life insurance. It's a miracle product. We just have to manage it, I believe, more thoroughly and properly than maybe we have in the past. I am done. Am I on time? Oh, great. So what are we doing now? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Do I stay or do I go?
So you're going to stay. We're going to go into our Q&A, little Q&A. So if anybody here has questions for Bob, feel free to ask right now. And we will also go out to everybody virtually and back to Zach to see if they have questions. All right. Zach, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. There you are. Any questions out there for Bob?
Over the years, what is the number one problem that you have seen?
Yeah, that's probably the most commonly asked question. I think it's these optimistic rates of return. You know, the market's averaged 9, 10, whatever the market's average, so let's build that into your policy. And you're comparing an apple to an orange because the market doesn't have cost of insurance. And so there's a lot of drag on that. So I think, for my opinion, and I've reviewed hundreds, thousands of policies, it's these what I'll call optimistic rates of return.
Any other questions? Zach, do you have any questions out there in the
Yeah.
chat world?
Yes, I do. So other than term insurance, which almost everyone should own, why would an ethical agent sell anything other than participating dividend paying whole life insurance issued by profitable insurance carriers?
Can you,
can
you
you-
repeat the
Sure,
question? That seems
sure.
to...
Other than term insurance, why would an agent sell anything other than whole life insurance by profitable insurance carriers?
Well, I think products are dictated by circumstances. And the reason many products exist is because people have different goals, objectives, and circumstances. As I said earlier, there are products that I personally won't sell. That's just a personal philosophy. It doesn't have to be yours. I do a lot of work, or try to do a lot of work, in the guaranteed universal life arena. I'm not one who believes life insurance is the most favorable investment, but I also believe life insurance should be extended beyond a 10 or 20-year period. So there's a product that is not dividend producing and participating. It's a guaranteed product that will be enforced as long as you pay the premium, and I think serves a very real purpose long after term insurance has expired.
Sure. We have
Anything else, Zach?
Yes. How do you feel about the 10-pay and 20-pay whole life insurance policies?
Again, so whole life premiums don't go away. They don't go away. They don't vanish. So if you want to, I have no problem setting up a 10 or a 20 pay program inside of a whole life policy, but just know that being done with premiums in that 10 or 20-year period is contingent upon a number of what ifs and subject tos. Will the expenses remain the same? Will the company be profitable enough? Will they continue to issue the dividend as projected? That's a lot of things that could go wrong, or if not wrong, at least differently. So I have no problem with setting up a program in that manner, but you can't set it and forget it. It is not something you stick in a sock drawer because these are fluid products.
I've got one here from the Twin Cities. Bob, what recourse does a client have if a policy fails?
Fortunately, I've never been through that process. From my estimation, very little. Very little. Carriers, in my opinion, when there's problems like that, the agent becomes an island pretty quickly. I'd be open to any other thoughts on that. But the insurance company has more time and money than all of us combined. They can wait these out. And so I have yet to see a policy go south, go bad, where restitution's been made. If there is a case, I'd love to know about it.
I was going to say with that, have you ever thought of being an expert witness for plaintiffs going after insurance advisors who are doing it wrong and doing some of those ones where you're doing the 10% return, or personally going after them?
That's a fair question. I've been asked probably 3 or 4 times. I've declined each time, quite honestly, and I'll just disclose to you that I'm always concerned who the lawyer is on the other side and if that person is referring me business. So I have been asked, like I say, maybe less than a handful of times, maybe 3 or 4 times. I haven't done it yet.
Zach, do you have anything else out there?
Yes, actually. So someone is asking if you could give them a scenario where it's in the client's best interest to withdraw cash value.
Well, there's many times. I'm not a big fan because I think that's the beginning of the end of a life insurance policy. Are loans that almost everybody intends to pay back and nobody does, it seems. But the cash is there, and if you have circumstances that warrant it, I think it's worth utilizing and accessing. You have a difficult year in business. You have college tuition to pay for, which, by the way, I have never sold a whole cash value life insurance policy on the premise of it funding college education. The most disappointed insureds I've ever worked with are those who bought policies for the purpose of education. Those are the most disappointed people I've worked with. But anytime cash is in short supply and there's cash available inside your policy, I guess that's what it's there for. But now what you've done is created even a higher level of management needed for this policy, because that cash value was buttressing up the death benefit. As you strip that cash out, you're accelerating your issues and problems and potentially even a lapse.
Thanks, Bob. Zach, anything else?
Yes, I do. So Steve Caldera asks, we have a number of companies stop selling life insurance or have moved their servicing to outside companies. How do we predict if and when this will happen with the companies we're working with?
Well, I'll ask the group to help me out on that one. I mean, when I get the Voya letter that I shared with you and others, it's often a surprise to me. We do have a carrier representative. I won't say his name so he can remain anonymous, but if he wants to bail me out on this one, I'd be interested. Okay, he's anonymous. You know, these changes, and they're big changes, they take us off guard. Sometimes we get forewarning, sometimes we don't.
And they often take a lot of the insurance carrier employees off guard too.
That's right. That's right.
Anything else, Zach?
Yeah, just one more here. Do you feel that the need for life insurance policies across the board will increase or decrease as time goes on?
That's a great question. Will they or should they?
Posed as will they?
Will be. I see a little less responsibility today than I recall observing and hearing from my parents. I think that that younger people, but professionals, are relying on their 401ks, their in-laws, other sources of cash besides. I'm a little concerned for our industry. I'm going to be in it for the long haul. I love what I do, and I hope you are as well. But I see a little bit. I think a little tougher times ahead. A character purchase, yeah, that's the purchase of life insurance as a character purchase. I'll steal that one too. Thank you. But I would be curious, or at least within the room, anyone feel similarly as I do? 1, 2, 3.
I think there's a lack of education, and people don't realize what they actually have set up, and there's just so much going on that sometimes that personal responsibility goes out the window without even trying to happen.
Yeah.
But I was curious, I know you didn't focus a lot on this on your presentation, but one thing you mentioned was just about the young couple with kids and $2 million in term insurance. And just curious to see what process do you typically use when calculating life insurance needs for, say, growing families? I mean, I know what the estate planning is going to look different, but
yeah. Well, that's a great question. I have a personal philosophy, and I've written about this, that the professional collecting the commission should not be establishing the need. I think that's an inherent conflict. And so I work closely. I said earlier, I work with a lot of other professionals in other fields. So I work very closely, as closely as they'll let me, with the lawyer, the CPA, and even more closely with the wealth manager, and help them determine. They determine largely on their own, but with my input if they ask, what the need ought to be, because they know their entire circumstances. I think we're headed for a little bit of trouble when the guy, man, woman collecting the commission is also establishing the need. So what's going to happen in that case? Well, of course, you need a boatload.
So can I ask a follow-up? Sorry. Thank you. When it's not a referral, or when it's somebody that approaches you independently, how are you helping them figure out, like, what resource are you sending them to if they don't have someone in their corner that is in that role?
Yeah, so that's a different question. The answer isn't too different. I'll find them a resource to work with in tandem. I want the need to be established by someone other than just me. I'll be involved, but I want that need established by someone in addition to me. And so I'll make an introduction, and they'll always accept one, to a wealth manager, a financial planner, someone who has all the tools. If you recall from my earlier pitch, I'm just an insurance guy. The financial planner knows the whole story, the whole picture. So working as a team is how I would prefer to do that. Mm-hmm.
Bob, follow-up question on that. What if the professional you're working with establishes a number that's too low?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'll pipe up.
You'll
Oh, yeah, I have no issue. I have no issue with that. I've delivered enough claim checks to have developed the backbone, or if you want to call it courage, to look a planner in the eye and say, that ain't going to do it.
We got one more here.
I agree with you that there's probably going to be less life insurance sold in the future, at least in proportion to the number of people. And I agree that part of the problem is, yeah, I'll get a 401k, or, you know, grandma will give me some money or whatever. But I think another big part of the problem is there are fewer people like you and me that are willing to sit down and explain to a client why they need life insurance.
Yeah.
How do we solve that?
No. I'm not ducking you. I just don't know. I just don't know. You know, Brian, you want to help me out?
I don't know, I was getting ready for another field. But I think part of the issue with that is that ideally everybody would have some whole life. You set your own benchmark as to what that should be. But young people can't afford to buy all permanent. They have to have term. People who are further along in their financial careers can afford to buy permanent, but there's so much investment advice out there that's contrary.
Yeah.
That you don't get an open mind.
We have work to do. We have work to do. This is our job.
Now, can I ask a different field? You mentioned—
Tom, I'm still thinking about your question. I may be late.
Well, one of my concerns on a long-term basis is that we have a lot of universal life that's guaranteed with a guaranteed benefit. What happens to our whole industry when one of those companies fails because the guarantor can't pay it either? I see that as a long-term trend.
I mean, David answered for me, and I agree with him. Good Lord willing, another company will come pick it up. Now, in the history of our industry, thankfully, which isn't necessarily an indicator of the future, that's all we have. My understanding is that not a single annuity payment or death claim has gone unpaid in the history of the United States life insurance industry, because when carriers fail, it's a black eye on everybody if we don't, as an industry, pick them up. So carriers have failed. That's not new. It's not frequent, but it's not new. Carriers have failed, and the industry has rallied around that and picked them up and paid the claims, made the annuity payments. Because I think as soon as a payment gets missed, we're all in trouble. That's a black eye on all of us. So I think oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The state insurance commission that, there's a State Department, and each client should sign a form stating that if the company fails, that the insurance commission will step in and pick that up. Up to 250 or 500,000, depending. What generally happens is the commission green mails another insurance company. Not blackmail, green mail. This is a product that has guarantees. It's also an asset, and companies are out there looking for it, so they will pay for that asset, and they will cover the guarantees of the product, and they will in fact cover some of the projections of the product. So, and I agree with you, there's never been a case where a policy hasn't been paid because of a failure of the company. There have been failures of companies.
Yeah, while they compete fiercely with one another, I don't think they want to see their competitor go down. That's not good for anybody.
No, they also, it's never happened.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And you asked a couple of questions, but I haven't quite figured it out, and I don't know the solution. And if there's someone who would like to talk to you about it, let me know. I'd like to talk to you about it. This is my 45th year in the business. I've seen what you talked about happen. But there are more and more ethical agents out there, and there are a ton of people that are doing it right.
I agree.
There's a lot of education going on. You mentioned that the number one problem is optimistic rates of return. I believe the number one problem has become underfunding the product, and it started back in the 1980s when Universal Life came into being. I spoke to a group of 500 people in Montgomery, Alabama, telling them that this was going to be a problem because they were saying, look, I can sell you a life insurance policy for half the cost that the whole life is, and they use the word half the cost. That's misleading. It's half the premium. And you said the cost and premium aren't the same. I agree. And the cost of certain products go up, and the cost of certain products can actually be going down. If you maneuver a product properly, if you understand the product, and you said that, you can maneuver the product. And I can actually create a product where the costs go down, not up. And in the lifetime of a client, the company will actually guarantee that the cost will go away because it's no longer become an insurance product anymore. It's become a true asset.
All right, we're out of time. I got the word from National. So Bob, thank you very much. Everybody in virtual land, we're concluding here in the Twin Cities. It doesn't mean that you're done in the viewing parties out there. So for about the next 30 minutes, there were 2 case studies that went out. We got really creative with them. So I would encourage, what we're going to do here in the Twin Cities is we're going to read these case studies out aloud and then get into little pods or little.
All right, everybody. I just wanted to thank Minnesota for hosting. I just wanted to get everyone back to the regularly scheduled program and their schedules for today. So I wanted to go ahead and give us our second polling question since they're wrapping up in Minnesota. So our second polling question for today is, which state are you viewing this program from? I'll repeat that. Which state are you viewing this program from? Please use the polling function on your screen to respond. You have 2 minutes. So once again, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today and participating in today's NAIFA Live. Don't forget to mark your calendar for the next meeting on July 18th, hosted by NAIFA Iowa and featuring Curtis Cloak presenting Cracking the Retirement Income Code. For those of you who have joined us virtually, this concludes our program. For those who are participating in area viewing locations, we turn you back to your local meeting and encourage you to continue the discussion using the case studies and scenarios provided and close with a local social hour. Have a great day.